Okay, so this is Chapter 3, Nations and Society, from O'Neill's book. We'll look at identities, nationality, ethnicity, and ethnic conflict. Okay, society is a broad term. Remember, in the tripartite uh, division of society between the state, society, and the market. This is sort of the middle sector, society. So we'll look at society and then we'll look at the market actually in chapter 4. So society, that's what society is. I won't go over it. It's defined. And identity is different, right? Based on how individuals define themselves, their relations to others, their relations to government, and their relations to the state. Okay, so there are many different types of identities, right? But fundamentally, all of these you can think of many are of two basic types. One is group, and the other is individual. So we have group identities like ethnic, national, religious. These are political identities, and then individual identities. Okay. So at the group level, we'll focus on ethnic, national identities, and then also citizenship, which is an important type of identity, a specific type of identity. At the individual level, we'll focus on political attitudes and ideologies, stressing that these are not the same. Okay, they're similar, but they're different. Okay. So at the group level, okay, we have ethnic identity. These are ethnic identity or ethnicity. They're specific attributes of social and societal institutions that make one group of people culturally different from others. Okay, it's often based on customs, language, religion, or other factors. Often descriptive. Okay, and it generally someone's ethnicity remains fairly fixed throughout life. Okay, and these are not inherently political identities, but they're social. They become political once. Okay, once identities become politicized, ethnic identities, then they become sort of what are called national identities. Okay, and ethnic identities are not, given, right? They're not natural, right? They're what are called a social construction. Okay, they're the result of years and decades and centuries and millennia of people creating their own realities. Okay. So national identity, right, is based on the concept of a nation. Okay, a group of people that's bound together by a set of political aspirations, right? So this is the social identity, right? All of these, but once this group of people has political aspirations, especially self-government and sovereignty, then this becomes a national identity. Okay. This is an inherently political characteristic, and it's the basis for nationalism, which is simply pride in one's people and belief that they have a unique destiny, right? There was especially during the early 1990s, nationalism was almost a four-letter word amongst many. But the fact is that because there was this argument that strong nationalism led to violence and interethnic conflict and interethnic violence. And that's not necessarily the case. Okay, is there an American nation? What do you think? Think about that for a few minutes. Okay, so citizenship and patriotism, right? Citizenship is a specific relationship that an individual has to his or her state. Okay, the individual swears an allegiance to the state, wherein the state in turn provides specific benefits and rights, but also you have obligations. Okay, so this is a purely political relationship or identity, right? And as a result, it's more easily changed than ethnic identity or national identity. Okay, many of us have more than one. For example, have more than one citizenship. Okay, but I only have one ethnicity. It's the basis for patriotism, which is pride in one's state and citizenship. Okay. Now there are essentially three types of citizenship, right? Jus sanguinis, which is the right of blood. Jus soli, which is the right of territory, and naturalization. So, jus sanguinis essentially means that a child's citizenship is determined by its parents' citizenship. Okay, so if the parents are citizens of a particular country, then no matter where in the world that individual is born, that child is born, that child has the citizenship of the parents. Okay, the United States does this, for example. The ideal case, of course, is Germany. An ideal case is Germany, although Germany is changing their laws to accommodate jus soli, which means citizenship granted on the basis of birth on territory. So if you're born on a particular territory, then you're given citizenship in that territory. Like, for instance, in France, for many years, Germany did not allow individuals born on its soil to have citizenship if they weren't ethnically German. So, for instance, if you were watching the recent Euro 2008 championships. The Croatian brothers Kovac, Robert and Niko, are of Croatian ethnicity, but they were born and raised in Germany. But as a result of Germany's citizenship law, they were never granted, nor do they have German citizenship. and so they are playing for Croatia. France, of course, is different. Anyone born in France is given citizenship, regardless of ethnicity. Okay, and naturalization is where a person actively and voluntarily acquires citizenship. Like, for instance, in these countries, do all persons have citizenship? Well, in fact, the answer is no. There are many stateless persons as a result of the collapse of empires, the collapse of multinational states, etc. And there are there are, I think, around, at latest estimate, has about 15 million people around the world who do not have citizenship. Would you pass the U.S. citizenship exam? If you go to my blog, you'll see a YouTube embed of Craig Ferguson, the CBS late night talk show host, taking his citizenship exam and becoming an American citizen. Okay, so what are the origins of ethnic identity, national identity, and citizenship? Well, I won't go through that, but do you remember that states formed really in the 15th and 16th centuries, and really late in the 16th centuries, and then into the 17th century as a result of the Treaty of Westphalia. This is sort of the idea, ultimately the formation of nation states, etc. Citizenship, I'll go through that. So, okay, so now I wanted to talk about a couple of sources of ethnic conflict. There really are three views of ethnic conflict. There's the sort of the instrumentalist view, right, the top-down view, the primordialist view, the bottom-up view, and the structural view. In the instrumentalist view, right, the top-down approach, the idea is that there are what are called individuals who are called political entrepreneurs in government, and they seek to advance their individual interests by fomenting ethnic conflict. Okay, so this is this a cultural argument or a rational choice argument? Well, obviously it's a rational choice argument, right? Because the argument is that individuals have certain beliefs and they have certain preferences. Okay, for instance, there's this argument that the former Serbian leader, the deceased now Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic, wanted to retain power. As a result, he stoked up ethnic enmity between the Croats and the Serbs in order to then retain power. So that's that's a very strong rational choice explanation. So the solution to this, well, if you can intervene from the outside and change, right, individuals' incentives and change their beliefs, then you can get them to, in fact, stop fighting. Okay. Then there's the primordialist view, right? This is the bottom-up view, which argues that conflict is generated really by long-standing friction between and ethnic hatred between groups. So the Serbs and the Croats, they've just always hated each other, and as a result, anytime they're given the opportunity, they'll kill each other. Okay, and in this case, the animosity must essentially burn itself out. Right, once people once these natural enemies have decided that they've had enough, then they'll stop killing each other. And this is obviously a cultural explanation, right? And the solution, well, there really is no solution except to let the violence burn itself out, I guess. And then there's finally the structural view, right? And from this perspective, the argument is that conflict is generated and facilitated by the ethnic heterogeneity of states. Okay. And the belief is that the more ethnically fragmented a state is, the more there is conflict in that state. And so this is a structural explanation, right? There's a particular structure of demographic structure. There's a geographical and demographic structure that leads to conflict. So the solution here is partition, right? If we can then separate, these ethnically heterogeneous states into more ethnically homogeneous independent states, then maybe we'll have ethnic peace. Chaim Kaufman is a strong proponent of this approach. Okay, and so here you look at levels of ethnic fragmentation around the world, right? The darker the blue, the higher the level of ethnic fragmentation, right? The higher the level of ethnic homogeneity. Sorry, so China is very relatively ethnically homogeneous, as is most of Western Europe. Interestingly enough. Remember, that's a historical fact as a result of the consolidation of nation states. As Herbst talked about, Africa, you see, is very ethnically fragmented, and there's an argument that that's one of the reasons why Africa has many problems in terms of democratization, economic growth, etc. Okay.